all set? Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Tim Scannell. I am with the CIO Executive Council. If you don't know what that is a global community of IT leaders, and half of those are CIOs. I am here today with Lookman Fazal, who is the Chief Information and Digital Officer, New Jersey Transit, and also one of the CIO Executive Council members. New Jersey Transit's business model is really simple. It's transporting people from one point to another as quickly, reliably, and pleasantly as possible. Keyword pleasantly. It sounds pretty simple, except when you consider the scope of this agency, which is the third largest provider of bus, rail, and light rail service in the U.S. The system covers a service area of more than 5,300 square miles that links 3 states and includes an active fleet of 2,221 buses, over 1,200 trains, and over 90 light rail vehicles. Nearly 270 million passenger trips are made each year across New Jersey Transit's 253 bus routes and 12 rail lines. Pre-COVID, the system transported close to 1 million passengers a day. There's a lot of technology that makes this happen and happen smoothly, with most of it focused on providing not only a pleasurable and efficient experience, but also offering enough time for a passenger to grab that all-important cup of coffee or cheese Danish along the way. Again, make that trip pleasurable. I'm pleased to welcome Lookman Fazal today, and he is the person charged with delivering the solutions that make all this happen and fuel all of this digital transformation. So welcome, Lookman. It's great to have you here, and great to have these people here to listen to what we have to say. So let's begin by, if you tell me a little bit about New Jersey Transit, the scope of this transportation company. I'm not sure everyone in the audience recognizes just how large and extensive an operation it is. I listed some of the numbers, but you're in there every day, so I'm going to give it to you.
Sure. So thank you, Tim. Welcome, everyone. Hope you can hear me okay. My name is Lookman Fazal. I joined NJ Transit about 4 years ago, and the task was very simple. Leapfrog the company, make it modern, make it current, make it exciting to work, and you have 5 years to do it. Which meant that I did my reverse calculation, and I said, if I need to do that, every 1 year of work should move the company ahead by 8 years. So in 5 years, the company should move by 40 years. That was the task. How to move the company in 40 years? In 5 years. I'm in year 4 of that transformation. So that's 32 years. So if I look back, did I move the company ahead by 32 years? The answer is yes. And how do we measure that? So 2019 is when I joined. In 2019, this is before COVID, we were still giving out, from a technology perspective, we were still giving out a wired desktop, a wired phone, a wired printer, no web conferencing solution, no audio conferencing solution. So the culture of the company was you go in a conference room with a notepad and a paper, you type your notes, you come back to your desk, and you start typing those notes, right? So this is just from an end user perspective. Similarly, from a business applications, from consumer applications, you had the same thing. Our app in 2019 was rated 1.5 on an app store. That was the rating. So 4 years later, all that is gone. We are current. Nobody has desktops. We have started cutting wires, so nobody has any wired in their offices. We have now, we did the whole app. Our app is now 4.8 rating by 150,000 people. And we are always adding features from a consumer perspective. Because if you look at 1 million people ride New Jersey Transit. And New Jersey Transit, the way we look at it is we are not a transportation or a logistics company, because when you start thinking of yourself as a transportation company, then you are just going to compare yourselves with other transportation companies. We started thinking of ourselves as a business to consumer company. So when you start thinking, the challenges that a retail store has, such as, competition, how do we bring in foot traffic, how do we prevent our store from shutting down, how do we make our product relevant, and why should they buy our product? All those factors, now you start applying to your environment, and you start shifting the culture. So that's how we look at ourselves.
Yeah,
and it's been pretty effective.
And it has been, and I think it's interesting. You said we're not a transportation company. I've been in the industry a long time, and I had the pleasure of being at the when Steve Jobs introduced the iPod. And one of the things, if anyone knew that, or you go back on YouTube and you look at the video, is he never called it a music player, because there were music players out there already. He said, this is a device that's going to change your life. And so I think that's what transportation, New Jersey Transit and other transportation systems, if they have the right attitude, it's not getting from point A to B.
It's not.
It's accomplishing where do you want to go and getting you there and enhancing your life. And so let's talk about that a little bit. You said the digital transformation journey is in its 4th year, and it's 8 years times 4, so that's 32 years. So you still look good, by the way. But obviously during COVID, there were a lot of things that happened that accelerated that DX. In fact, some people say that digital transformation actually tripled in acceleration, and actually is pushing innovation as well. Tell me some of the things that you saw needed more quickly during COVID and that you developed.
Actually, we didn't change our strategy. So, COVID peak time was 2020 and 21. I started in 2019. I already was 1 year into the role. So the map I laid out, we just continued staying with the same map. So in 2019, we started cutting all those wires. We said no more wires. So when we did that, when COVID hit in 2020, we were ready, right? So really, it was not a change or acceleration that we had to see. We were already a wall-less office. We were already a remote office. We had all those web conferencing, audio conferencing, video conferencing solution in place in 1 year, so we were prepared.
Yeah.
What COVID probably helped us do is take the time out, because the riderships were down. We were from 1 million people a day, we were down to 10%. Now we are critical services. It's not like a retail store where you don't get a customer in the business, you shut it down. We have to operate the store regardless, because that 10% of 10% of riders who are taking a transportation, those are critical staff. Those are doctors and nurses who had to go to the hospitals to take care of the patient. So we could not shut down those services. So we continued that. But we looked at that downtime, that 10% traffic, and said, how can we start now looking at the ridership experience? So when a rider goes, that nurse who got to go to the hospital, in that journey of an hour or so, are there any wastages that we can help remove from that journey? So an example, so there are many wastages. If you look at your journey from the time you wake up and you enter take your car and you go to the bus and take the bus or train and get to your work, there are many wastages you can. So in our case, there were several wastages. People used to sleep on the train and miss their stop. That was wastage 1. You may had to stop in a line to pick up your, at the ticket vending machine to buy your ticket. That's a wastage. You may arrive at the bus stop a few minutes earlier because you were told that the bus is arriving at a certain time. That's wastage. You may go up and down the train looking for the restroom. That's wastage. So if you look at all the wastages happening, there were many. So our thought process was, okay, now that we have identified that wastage, because, but our global theme was, how do we save 15 minutes from your journey on a daily basis? If you were able to remove 15 minutes, that's 1 million people times 15. That's 15 million minutes that we are saving of people's time.
But it's not as simple as that, because you can say, I'm gonna give somebody a nudge so they don't fall asleep and they get off, and it's going to save 15 minutes on their ride. But you have you have partners to deal with. So along these routes, there are partners, whether it's a McDonald's or it's a coffee shop or something like that. So you have to deal with their certainties and uncertainties as well. So how do you bring that all in? It's got to come down to really good data analytics or data analytics system.
Yeah. So we just first looked at our own app, at our own technologies, and where we were wasting people's time, and we removed those. And now, so we solved all those problems. And now from a wastage perspective, there are still wastages left. The area that we are working on is now to the ecosystem that's around it. So today, you may take our mode of transportation, you get off at destination A, but then you have some other mode of transportation to take you to your destination, to your work. So right now, 2 companies' apps don't talk to each other. 2 parking lot apps don't talk to each other. a bus and a train app don't talk to each other. So what that's happening is, so from a ridership perspective, if I'm going from Pennsylvania, which is on this end, and New York City on this end, and New Jersey in the middle, as a rider, I have to have 3 apps: the Pennsylvania Transit app, the New Jersey Transit app, and the New York City app. I may park my car here, that's a parking lot app. I may take a bus, that's another app. So that is still wastage from a consumer perspective, and that is what we're trying to solve for.
Yeah. Now, are the mobile apps helping with that? Because that adds a whole uncertainty into the mix. You know, the mobile apps have a good aspect in that people get involved in that transportation system and the process. The bad thing is that you're probably getting a lot of information from customers about what you can do better,
Yes.
what could be better, or whatever.
Yes. So data is one of our core. So, you know, without data, you can't make any business decisions. 4 years ago, where we looked at our data organization, we were at level 1 of maturity, which is ad hoc reporting. You know, many companies do that.
Yep.
Then as we were getting mature, as we were building our databases and our data warehouses, you know, so year 2 was focused on building that data warehouse. Year 3 was focusing on creating intelligent report. And now year 4 is taking that and looking at the data from a prediction and a prescription perspective.
Okay.
So I'll give you an example. In year 1, all we could produce is what % of our trains were on time and not on time. Just a pie chart with a %, that's it. As we started getting data from different systems, we were then able to look at why the trains were late. So then we figured out 7 reasons why a train is late. Then as our databases grew, we figured out 25 sub-reasons for those reasons, for those 7 reasons why they are late. So for example, it could be, you know, a parent reason could be mechanical failure, one of those 7 reasons, or people, you know, availability of staff, or, you know, weather, you know. Now we were able to tell you what exactly mechanical failure was it that caused the train to be delayed. And now we have taken that data so ahead that we are able to tell you that I take the 7:36 train from Jersey Avenue every morning to go to work. I can now tell you that if I take the same train on a Thursday, I have a higher chance of that train being late than compared to other days. So I'm saving time, you know, so I can sleep that 5 minutes extra.
So, but people don't have access to the information, because what you're telling me is that some days are better than others, and if they had access to the information, they're going to make those good days bad. So how do you prevent that from happening?
Well, no, we don't look at, you know, we want the bad days to become good. Like, why should Thursday be bad?
Right.
Why can't Thursday be like every other day?
So what happened on Thursday, and then you could do some predictive analytics and
Yes.
try to eliminate that roadblock on Thursday and make that happen.
Yeah.
And what about in terms of viewing all this data? There's a lot of information coming in. There's a lot of sensors out there, whether it's in the tracks and the stations, the information from people, the motormen on the trains. Is there a dashboard you follow? Is there a command center you look at? Or how do you keep that thing up to date?
So I mean, there's not just one dashboard. You know, every level of manager has their own dashboards. So for a rail operations, the rail has their certain dashboards. Bus operations, they have their own. So one of the things I told the executive team there is, if you had a blank screen in front of you, and you wanted to make business decisions, what are the 10 things? What are the 10 dashboards that you would want to see on a daily basis? That's the first thing you come in the morning. You know, from an IT help desk perspective, you know, the help desk staff, they're watching tickets, they're getting all the dashboards, mean time to repair, resolve, first call resolution, right? All those dashboards is how an IT help desk person looks at, right, every morning.
Right.
What ticket is aging. So similarly, there are dashboards for the business, you know, on-time performance, mean time to repair, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where we started. We said 10 dashboards on a blank screen. What is it? Now, the way we did that was, you know, changing the culture of a company to being a paper and pen company to now everything is electronic and discoverable and searchable and predictable. You know, it takes a lot of time.
And is one of your biggest challenges knowing what data goes into a certain person's hand where they can make effective use of it?
Yeah, so the governance model is very important, right? So in the transportation, already we are a high threat target because of the industry we are in.
Yep.
From a security cyber attack perspective, you know, we are, you know, top. And you have seen incidences and articles in the news where this has happened with other agencies. So it's very important that the data sharing is locked and there's a whole governance model around it.
And I'm sure that's a very secure sharing of information as well, because if that information gets out, then that could end up in a security breach of some sort as well. So security is probably very top of mind to you.
Very top. Yeah. So we are in all those, we are a PCI certified. We were the first transit agency to get an ISO 27001 certified. Basically, that tells our customer that your data is protected. So we have all the controls in place. And then I'm sure others are following us after we became the first.
Yeah, the problem with data collection is I think every company knows very well how to collect the data. They don't know very well how to use that data, transfer it into business intelligence. So what's happening is a lot of companies are relying on AI and machine learning, enabling technologies to help filter that. They're putting intelligence at the edge, so it filters it at the edge before it gets down to a central location. Talk to me about what similar things like that at New Jersey Transit.
So we are an IoT company, right? So this is perfect, for why I'm here at this conference.
Yep.
Everything has a sensor, from the time the train leaves or the bus leaves, where it is, the entire history of the train or the bus, about its maintenance record, the number of people entering and exiting the bus or a train. All that information is collected through a sensor. So we are seeing an influx of sensors everywhere, not just inside a moving vehicle, but also we are putting in storm sensors on the ground, on our tracks, which looks at the water level. We are putting in we are using drone technologies, to look at vegetation growing around our tracks, because, we run drones on our tracks. We look at the growth of the trees around it, and we take that image week over week. We can then predict how fast will that grow, which means that you need to cut, So a lot of sensor work is being done.
So you're using visual technology integrated with AI and enabling technologies to do that. What about some of the tools that are needed to develop this stuff? Amazon has deep scalable sparse sensor network engine technology, or Destiny. Elon Musk has OpenAI, and we all know OpenAI because we have ChatGPT out there.
Yes.
Are these tools getting easier to use, or do we need a fresh set of tools going forward?
So the way I look at it is, as a technologist, we chose this field of technology, and we knew when we signed up that we have to keep ourselves current. We have to reinvent ourselves every 3 years. So in a 30 years career, I've reinvented myself 10 times. I could have hired the best Windows 98 administrator in 1998, but if that person didn't continue to be that good, and it's not the best Windows 11 administrator today, then you are not going to continue keeping the technology up to date. So never be afraid of the change. This is the career we chose. We must keep ourselves reinventing. So when I look at any time a new technology comes out, before even there's a business case or do we even need that skill, I do the reverse. I hire that skill. I said, hire the cloud architect, hire that data scientist, hire that Six Sigma lean consultant, hire the RPA person. Work will automatically follow. And we did that. And now, when I hired the first data scientist 2 years ago, people were like, hey, what is this person going to do? Now we have 3 of them, and we have a backlog of work that these people are doing. So the ChatGPT, we have already started working on AI and prediction because we are a consumer company. We get about 600,000 phone calls from customers throughout the year about refunds and ticket and sale and information, and there's a whole call center. So we started looking at all of those data to look at what can be done in an automatic way through AI, through the use of AI,
right,
and respond to our customers better.
So there's a lot of work you're doing on trying to humanize AI. Maybe using something like ChatGPT, so they answer questions and to filter things down and get answers to people a lot faster. Yeah. What about the back end? A lot of the people I talk to, a lot of the CIOs right now, some of the real problems they're having is that they're using enabling technology, they're using new emerging technology, but the back-end technology, the ERPs, the CRMs, are really in need of a refresh. How is that condition at New Jersey Transit?
So I look at, just I'm a little biased because I look at, within IT, I look at application ahead of infrastructure. Similarly, I look at consumer-facing applications ahead of internal applications. So if you can live with your older ERP system or an older HCM system, but it's getting the job done, and if I have to use that dollar and invest, I'm going to invest in the customer-facing application and the customer-facing technologies.
And of course, to do these technologies, to do this programming, you need qualified people. What are you doing internally in terms of either upskilling individuals, attracting new people? I mean, obviously there's a talent shortage. There's always been a talent shortage in IT. Now there's a severe talent shortage of people who are really experienced, who have the skills to develop this stuff. What are you doing internally to, as I said, upskill people?
So that's a challenge, because we are, in a transportation industry. We can compete with Amazon, who's stealing our bus drivers, and UPS and others who are, because they pay market rate. They are private companies. They have, bigger pockets than us. So there's a shortage, not just from an IT talent, even for bus drivers. And there are, again, data helps. So because this was a problem with us, where we had several thousands of vacancies. We looked at our data. Again, we took our data, sat with HR. We are now able to predict which employee is going to leave when and what we need to do about it.
It's kind of scary, isn't it? I mean, geez.
Well,
hey, Bill, come into my office. We just got
we just saw your social media activity and your resume being updated.
I am.
And your chat online going up by X%. Is there anything that we can do to help you? But this is all we can do, right?
Yeah. Use the technology well and try not to be too intrusive with it. Be a smart thing. You have a data scientific team. It almost sounds like they're functioning like data scientists. That they're focused on discovering new things rather than trying to always enhance older things, but finding new ways to do things. And you said you have 4 people on that team right now?
Just on the scientists.
Okay. All right. What about, there's a lot of pressure right now from the business side, especially on IT organizations. We're coming out of a recession. We're getting back to normal, whatever that next normal might be. And they're very focused on driving revenue, building resiliency, and they're getting a lot more involved in what IT is doing in terms of reprioritizing projects or saying what's important, what's not important. They're also getting involved in something that some IT organizations really don't like, and others say it's a good thing, and that's citizen computing, where they have people outside of IT that they may teach them some of the basics of technology, maybe the buzzwords. They don't necessarily know programming, but they may know how to solve a problem. So they have a lot of input. Some people may call this shadow IT, in a wolf in sheep's clothing. How do you feel about that? Is that happening at you?
So why does shadow IT happen in an organization? When you're not able to solve the other person's problem, and they know, and they have solutions which are better than what you're proposing. So we go to our business units. We have 16 business units, and typically, I've heard these complaints, even 20 years ago, we should have seat at the table, we should have seat at the table. Well, the reason you don't have seat at the table is because you didn't show your value to earn that seat at the table. So you gotta, how do you show your value? So the way we we worked in that area was, when I joined, I met with the 16 business unit SVPs, and I said, give me your 3 problems. So I collected 48 problems from 16 times 3. I said, all right, these are your top 3 problems. Let me work on it. Give me time and I'll solve that for you. I started solving those problems for them. They started building that trust. They said, oh, he helps me. He saved my day. He saved my operations. He saved my time. All of that. That started building trust because there was nothing in it. We are not a outside consulting firm. So it's not like we give the business unit making the most revenue, the platinum contract, and you are a finance organization, you're a cost center, you'll get the bronze contract. As an IT, I don't differentiate between, money-making business unit or a cost center. I give the same level of service to all 16 of them. So there is no,
Do you get them involved early in the game when you have an idea for something, and maybe having them put some skin in the game,
Yes.
and being accountable for things?
So
How
I
is that
hate
going
using
over?
the word business versus IT, us versus them, because the moment you start presenting your work or your slides or you're in the steering committee that, oh, the business said we need to do. Well, no, I'm in the business of IT, just like you're in the business of bus, just like you're in the business of finance. So there is no business versus IT. I also business, you are also business. So together we are partners. I need you. An example is, if somebody's laptop, let's say, doesn't work, they are my customer, you know, uh, I'm the vendor, they can yell at me, right? The finance may yell at me because their laptop didn't work. But the day I don't get my paycheck on time, I'm going to yell at them. So the roles are changing.
Yeah.
So why should it be that, oh, I'm here to serve finance, or I'm here to serve the business, or the bus? I'm an equal partner. So whenever we're doing any project, it's two in a box. You give me one name, I put one name in the box. Together they together they own the project. Its success and failure is joint. It's not us versus you.
Okay. And you mentioned, so we have AI that can predict when somebody might be leaving, so you can apply that to balancing the talent that you have within IT. Is it also applied to area of security? Security is going to be I was sitting at lunch earlier, and there were some people who were involved in security, and they started complaining how complicated it's getting, that it's across the board, it's in absolutely everything, and that's true. If you look at IT budgets, the spending on security looks to be going down, but in actuality, it's being spread across every possible area that you're involved in. What kind of enabling technologies are at play? You don't have to get any secrets, but what are you doing more and more in terms of security?
So we are connected to all the government organizations in terms of looking at the threat across the globe and all of that. We are in touch with our Homeland Security Department all the time. We in fact do joint work with them. They give us grants. So if you remember a year or so ago, there was the Brooklyn bombing, which happened in New York City. And the reason they were, and New York is the state next to us. So in that kind of exercise, everybody is asked to produce video footages. So that bomber had taken NJ Transit at some point during that journey. Making sure that the data is available across agencies and making sure we were able to track the suspect, it becomes very important.
Yeah.
So that's why there's a lot of joint work that happens between us and the rest of the...
Yeah, so you have a lot of eyes of what's happening, not only in the trains and the tracks and the surrounding areas, but the people as well, the crowds of people. Especially during COVID, you wanted to keep people separate when that was a mandate out there, so you can pass that information along to the right agencies, and they can do with it what they will in terms of defining business intelligence.
Yep, exactly.
Intelligence at the edge is, and we have at least almost 2 minutes here. Intelligence at the edge is a big topic of involvement, especially when you're dealing with predictive analytics. How much intelligence are you putting outside IT, out in the field?
It's all about, this year, year 4 theme, is data and innovation. I didn't get a chance to talk about the innovation work. Maybe in the next talk
in the next talk we'll hit it.
So that's what we are focusing on right now. Produce these data not just for internal consumption to optimize your operation, to make sure that bus arrives when it says it's going to arrive, but it's also from a consumer perspective. So we are pushing it on the edge, so that the consumers can save time.
Yeah.
And that's what we look at, right? How do we save time? People are used to an Uber-like functionality. Just imagine, if that Uber was saying it's coming in 1 minute or 3 minutes, and all of a sudden it goes into 10 minutes, that's going to cause frustration.
Yeah, and as you said, you've really come a long way, because I remember when we first started talking about this a few years ago, and you were saying how you're transitioning from some of your passengers still using paper tickets, and then they went to smartphones and everything is all digital, so that it's quite a fast transgression of
it's been amazing journey. It's been it's very exciting. I love it. And from a talent perspective, I have a great team. None of this is possible without a great team, because technology, what you're good at today, 3 years later, it's gone. So it always starts with the people, and you can't do all of this without a great set of people.
And as the slogan for another train company says there's something about a train that's magic, and the magic behind the scenes is all the technology that goes into it. I'd like to thank Lookman for going through this fireside chat. Please stick around because we're going to be joined by 2 other CIOs. We're going to have a great conversation about some of the challenges that are facing IT and technology and development today. It'll be a great session if you have time to say it. But in the meantime, I'd like to thank Lookman for adding his thoughts.
Thank you,
and thanks to the audience.
IoT, and thank you the audience for listening and attending the
So in 5 minutes, we'll start a panel discussion.
Great, thank you.